In a corner here, guys, so I'm sorry about that. But I want to thank you all for coming out here to hear me speak. I'm very grateful and humbled to have met all of you and for this whole experience at La Machina. Sono grato y umile. I figured that I'm going to try to keep this talk brief because I want you to actually see the work that I've done here. But I wanted to give you a bit of background to see the evolution of my work in the last few years. So I'm going to begin with 2015, before graduate school, pre-graduate school. A through line and a common theme in my work is trying to define place. So trying to think about what actually makes, what is a place? Is it the people that live there, that dwell in these homes? Is it the proximity of the place, the location, what it's surrounded by? Is it the memories? What exactly makes a place? And the work that I was doing in 2015 focused on the idea, the concept of erosion. And I had two solo shows that I titled Erosion Studies of Finite Permanence. So I was thinking about paradox and how the physical locations of the places that I'm drawn to, oftentimes they're eroding, they're falling apart, they're full of detritus. However, I keep going back to them. So like my family cottage, a logging community in Elkmont, Tennessee. These are places that, humidity causes them to sag and sigh. However, people keep going back to them, and those memories that people make in those places are what give it life. And so it's still, though it's falling into the ground, it's rising up, and these layers of memories are what actually makes the place. So then I started graduate school. And I started graduate school in the fall of 2016. And graduate school is a wonderful time, but faculty members love to shake up your work, make you think about your concepts in a different perspective. So I kind of removed the personal narratives from my work and the personal imagery that I oftentimes used photo transfers in and then painted over top. And I looked specifically at incidental markings of places that I encountered. So I'd go into homes, oftentimes abandoned, and I would look at the way light hit the walls and the floor, the way shadows moved through time. I looked for void spaces, so like an empty chair or a place where a person should be. And I took those abstracted forms and organized them onto these assemblages. The pieced together panels. I'd sometimes find source material or find materials to combine into my assemblages. And these pieces became specific portraits, specific abstractions of places. And so it was a completely different way of defining a place without, the singular, the structure. It's all the components that are on the inside and that are ephemeral, moving, but they're still a very important component of a place. Ma io amo pittura. I love painting. So I needed to go back. And last summer, I had the opportunity to spend 5 weeks in Venice. And when I was in Venice, I was working plein air, and I had this objective to abstract from life. So I was looking to absorb my environment, and Venice, as you all know, is very touristy, very busy. So I wanted to absorb the energy, the colors, the shapes of this place, like the piazzas, the public marketplaces, the vaporettos. And what I noticed during my time painting in Venice was that I'm not drawn to the well-known sites, the historical locations, the touristy traps, the things that bring people into a location, but I'm drawn to the quieter narratives, the latent and the mundane that is around me. And this work here was generative for my second year show, my second year exposition. And this happened last fall. And it was based off of this travel experience in Venice, but in retrospect. So I was focusing on the clarity and the obscurity that happens with memory over time, where certain things were very clear and very specific, whereas other things faded away and became more abstract. So this work was composed, the show is composed of small pieces of about 4 by 6 inches, very small, like these. And I considered these portraits of place. So these were very, very clear. I could recall these working from memory. And then I worked quite large. And the large pieces became sort of a collage space where I would merge memories, create fictitious stories of my past experience in Venice. And what I was trying to do in my installation was think about rhythm and think about proximity and how I could have the viewer move at a certain pace throughout the installation. The small pieces versus the large were studies of forte voci e morbido voci, small voices versus loud voices. And I realized that that's a really important concept in my work, is the loud versus the soft, the really overt versus the inconspicuous. So this leads me to the work that I did at the end of this past spring, before I arrived at La Machina. I was merging places, thinking about going through my daily life, the ordinary, the mundane, are those things that really excite me. And I was thinking about, as I go through my daily life and a certain memory is triggered. Maybe it's triggered from a smell, a sound, a sight. And whenever that would happen, I would stop and I would take a photo and I would take notes of whatever really drew that emotion or that memory out of me. And then in my pieces, I would work to layer using charcoal, paint, pastel, to play around with that back and forth in time and space. I realized that these memories, I think I have another one. Here's one. These are all my memories, and they're all idiosyncratic. They're all things that only I can remember clearly. However, I try to use my process as a way to get that back and forth in time and that poignant moment to come through with color, like a pop of color. So that leads me to La Machina and to the Ora and Qui. Omaggio al Posto is the title of my installation, Homage to Place. I came here with a very broad concept and goal. I just wanted to be here, and I wanted to absorb and observe and get to know the people and try to understand the culture a little bit in my time. So these are just a few process images, and we'll move to the installation in a little bit, but there are three main parts to my installation. There's the landscape portion. I looked for places of solitude, places of quiet. I became transfixed on the repetition of the patterns of the leaves, the natural beauty that you're surrounded by here in Toscana. I spent some time in Florence and traveling before here, and went to the market in Greve. And I paid close attention to those busy locations, trying to capture the essence of them, the varying paces and tempos. So the touristy areas, the carousel in Florence. And then the third component was small portraits, small portraits on panel of very specific people or figures. And when I was in these busy places, my eyes would kind of linger on something that was very isolated. So I would, when I was in Florence, I saw these two individuals who were sitting under the archway of Santa Maria Novella, the church there, and there was this bustling crowd in front of them, but they were just sitting there in their own lives. There were also 3 nuns touring the area, and they seemed so out of, like they didn't belong in this environment that they were there. So I looked for those types of individuals. I looked at Madonna and Child, sculptures that are around, and everything fascinated with them. So I have some small portraits of those. So in these 3 tracks of my work and my installation, I've tried to create a body of work in response and to honor the people, the place, and the memories that I've made here in Italy. Spero vi piaci il mio offering.